Is God's existence obvious? What's going on, guys? It's your boy Ty, and today I have for you all what my first discussion video about a religious concept. And today I want to explore the question: is God's presence or existence obvious? And so, what inspired me to make this video is a lot of times people they all religious people, I guess. Religious people always tell me, "Oh, well, God's presence is obvious. Allah's presence is obvious," or insert religious God X obvious. And I that's not really so obvious to me, and I think it'd be really important to kind of delve into what they mean by that, or if it's actually obvious, it being the proposed God or God in general, or the philosophical monotheistic God. For starters, I do want to point out that I want to focus on the concept of God's existence itself and not so much his or it or she or their proposed work. So I'm not talking about miracles or the creation myth or story, divine intervention or things like that. Just specifically the qualities of God's existence. So the first thing I want to do is define terms a little bit. I guess I'm being a little bit Aristotelian. So I want to talk about the definition of existence. If I'm not mistaken, the dictionary describes it as the fact or state of having objective reality. I think that's a fair definition. I don't really have any problems with it. Someone would probably argue, well, how do we know what is objective reality? But I imagine they mean as much as a human can do. So next thing I want to talk about is what are the qualities of existing things, at least as far as in coordinates to a human, I should say. Existence is qualified by anything that is perceivable by the senses or detectable by technology. I think that is a fair definition. I also want to point out that this does mean that there's possibly and there's probably things that are not perceivable by the senses or detectable by our technology as of yet, and they could still exist. But I would make the argument that if it doesn't fit in one of those two classes, then we have no justification to believe it. It's like saying that invisible fairies that we can't see or we can't detect, that they exist. Well, you don't have really any justification to believe that. Well, I would be interested in hearing your justification to believe that. Anyways, move right along. So the first thing I want to talk about are the qualities of God's existence. As far as I can tell, God is invisible, tasteless, odorless, silent, and intangible. Now, I think people would, at least religious people, would argue with me on if God is silent or whether he talks or it talks or they talks or things like that. Because some people, I guess, claim that they have heard the voice of God. And I think the interesting thing there would be, how would we analyze that? Because if different people of different religions are claiming that they hear the voice of God or that they have talked to God, and not only are they claiming that these are different non-mutually, or mutually exclusive gods, the gods, a lot of times they describe the voice differently. I've heard that it's thunderous like Zeus, sort of like this.
Watch out, mortals.
Or that it's your own voice, sort of like this.
I am God.
Or that it's calming, sort of like Morgan Freeman's voice.
I'm God.
Or I even read one thing where the person said that God's voice sounds like the manipulation of thoughts to where you hear, but you know the voice is not coming from outside of you. It's coming from within you. That's interesting. I would, I don't know. The thing is, I have no justification to believe it, obviously, because this thing never happened to me. Also because people who claim this are claiming a bunch of different things. And so I wouldn't have any mechanism to determine who should I believe over others, because how can I test something that is in your mind? Do we test brainwaves or something like that? Interesting. Anyways, so now that we talked about the qualities of God, being intangible, invisible, odorless, silent, tasteless, and undetectable by technology, I think the interesting thing to point out, those are also the qualities of non-existence. If anything that is existing, at least in coordinates to humans, is either perceivable by the senses or detectable by technology, and God is neither of those things, then God's features are literally the same as non-existence. And if that is the case, then that makes God's existence not obvious. Because if we can't tell God from the non-existent, we really have no justification to believe that God exists or that a God exists. I think the interesting thing would be to hear extra qualities of existence that people add on to that, and take them as they come. For example, I imagine someone can say that we detect God through the soul, but if we say that, then it'd be on that person to prove that a soul exists. I'm not going to get into the big argument of souls here, but as far as I can tell, we have no justification to believe that even souls exist. So moving right along. I think one also interesting thing to mention that I've read that I've actually read about this. And so one argument was that Jesus or whatever the part of your Holy Trinity that exists in our world, Jesus was God. I've heard Jesus was God. Therefore, he actually manifested in reality to the point where we can perceive him through the senses, or somebody perceived him through the senses, and that he was at that time detectable by technology. Well, even if that was the case, that just changes the argument, because now the argument is the point of discussion is, was Jesus a God or God? We kind of have no reason to believe that other than the Bible. And the Bible is the claim, so we would need extra biblical evidence to prove that claim. And to be honest, there's barely evidence that Jesus existed. And so that's the end of this video. I guess I'll present the argument one last time in a very summarized, quick to the point fashion. If the qualities of the existence of a thing match the qualities of non-existence, then that thing is indistinguishable from non-existence. Anything that is indistinguishable from non-existence should be assumed to not exist until we have a reliable method for detecting qualities of the thing's existence. The qualities of God's existence match the qualities of non-existence. Therefore, God is either non-existent or indistinguishable from non-existence, making God's existence not obvious. Thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to share my videos. Comment below, what do you think the voice of God sounds like? Do you think it sounds like Morgan Freeman, Zeus, I guess, or your own self? Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
I'm God.
Bingo! Yahtzee! Is that your final answer? Our survey says God! Bing, 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 bing. Well, it was nice to meet you, God. Thank you for the Grand Canyon, and good luck with the apocalypse. Oh, and by the way, you suck!